You're listening to Big World Network.
Average, Season 2, Episode 11, written by Jonathan Thompson, read by Heather Thompson. But all the waffles in the world couldn't change the fact that the canine beast was waiting for me the next morning. I didn't even get to wait at the bus stop with Grace because of him. And that was the truly troubling part. That morning, after our spectacular conversation, was key in keeping the momentum going. I mean, I would even go so far as to say we had shared a moment. Me and Grace, not me and the dog. The dog ruined the chance of future moments. Instead, I had to wait inside until the bus came. I paced in front of the closed door, peeking out of the windows for glimpses of the squeaking yellow mass. I heard it come puttering around the corner and positioned myself in front of the door, my hand on the knob. The bus stopped and I booked it across the street while the beast sailed along behind me. It was almost like he didn't really want to catch me. He just wanted to chase me. The beast allowed me to tear past him, and then, and only then, did he start running behind me with full zeal. You may be wondering where my father was during all this murderous mayhem. So was I. He had left for work just a few minutes before I made my way to school and must have seen the dog, and the dog must have seen him. But I heard no commotion, no barking, and the dog wasn't scattered in charred bits all over the lawn. It was safe to say, then, that they hadn't had any issues. So, apparently, I was the target. This dog was meant for me. Don't worry, though, I was fully aware of this. My dad's inactivity only brought new life to my suspicions. He wasn't off the hook yet. Sure, he said he couldn't control animals, and I believed him. There would be no reason for him to, after all. I figured if he couldn't control people, why would he be able to control animals? But he knew untold amounts of supers, so I was sure that one of them could have been doing him a favor. Of course, he had promised to stop pushing me to find my powers, but that didn't really mean anything. It's not that I didn't trust my father, it's just that his word was flexible. He always left himself some sneaky loophole when making promises, another of his many talents. The dog was there when I got home to help me cross the street in record time. He also propelled me to my interview with Jim with much more vigor than I really had. I didn't really like Jim as a person, and I had no real interest in getting to know his story. Not only was he boring, but he was arrogant. In my opinion, and this is just how I see things, if you're going to be full of yourself, you should have good reason. Although in light of my developing theory, I was interested to know exactly what prolonged stimulus could cause someone to achieve a heightened sense of smell. Disclaimer. I sincerely apologize for any jokes or references, intentional or accidental, regarding bodily functions. I'm really not doing it on purpose. I rushed through Jim's door without knocking. Thankfully, it was unlocked. "Sure," he said from his couch. "Come on in." "There's a wild dog," I panted, "chasing me." "What?" "Let me see." Jim got up and walked to the door like he was personally offended at the very idea that a dog would dare be disorderly in his neighborhood. Of course, the dog wasn't there. I should have expected that. "Quinn, there's no dog." "Yeah, must have left," I said, catching my breath and taking a seat. Jim returned to the couch. James. I had to call him James. I grew up calling him Jim. Just about everyone who ever called him anything called him Jim. But a few years ago, he had decided that he was now James. So I reminded myself and repeated James mentally over and over again. "You know I'm only doing this for my grandfather, right?" he said. "Yeah, I know. I really just want to know a few things about how your senses developed. I think I have a working theory on how this stuff works, but the more evidence I have, the better." "Sure," James said before cracking every single joint in his neck, shoulders, and hands. I mean it, too. Every joint. Here's something I should have told you about James. Atop his giant nose sat giant glasses. They were easily an inch thick and 6 inches high. Here's something I should have told you about myself. I have no concept of measurements and a penchant for hyperbole. But, all kidding aside, these things were enormous. Behind them, his eyes looked like golf balls. Remember that. It'll be important in about 10 seconds. "Was there any constant in your childhood that would have led to your sense of smell being increased?" I asked simply. One good thing about interviewing James was that I didn't really care what he thought about me or my technique. I was trying to impress everyone else I had dealt with up to this point. With James, I could get right down to it, because neither one of us wanted an actual conversation with the other. He thought about this for a lot longer than I had expected, and much more deeply than I thought was appropriate. I mean, I appreciated him taking it so seriously, but come on, it was a hyperactive nose. It's not like he could see the future or anything. Finally, he said, "It was probably because of my eyes." He shrugged. "And my ears, I guess." "What do you mean?" I had really bad vision when I was a kid. I had to choke back an army of sarcastic comments orbiting around his glasses. It's a shame, too. There were some real gems in there. Plus, I was always getting ear infections that messed with my hearing. "Wow," I said. "I didn't realize you had so many health problems." He snorted proudly. "I didn't have health problems. I was totally healthy." "Okay, so you think that your body compensated for your other senses?" "Right." "Well," I said, standing, "that makes sense. Thanks." James looked confused and a little offended. "That's it?" "Yeah, I mean, I just needed to know that to confirm my theory." "Okay, but my grandfather said that you were trying to catalog how each power worked. Don't you want to know, like, my weaknesses or the full extent of what I can do?" I rolled my eyes shamelessly and sat back down. "Sure. What can you do?" With no big show, James took a totally normal-sized breath and rolled it around on his tongue. "For breakfast, you had a frozen cinnamon raisin bagel with cream cheese. You've had 3 Dr. Peppers and a bag of chips. A roast beef sandwich with mayo, mustard, lettuce, tomato, and onions on a hard roll. Your toothpaste is spearmint, and you really need a floss. You had gym today, and if you want to go for a walk, I could probably track your entire day." "Well, that was pretty cool," I admitted. "Is there anything you can't smell or have a hard time with?" "I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, there are a lot of smells out there." "But don't you ever get grossed out? Like, I can't stand the smell of cream of mushroom soup. I don't know why, I just hate it. You smell all this stuff, but amplified. Is it ever too much?" "Not really. I've never found a smell repulsive, just interesting, I guess." "Like a dog," I said. "Yeah," he said, smiling. "I guess so. Speaking of dogs, I did smell one outside before when you got here. I didn't recognize him, but somebody spends a lot of money on shampoo for that dog. I could help you track him if you want." Okay, fine. I was going to leave this detail out, but now that I go back over James' comments, I feel like I should describe the dog. This beast, my pursuer, was a cream-colored poodle, complete with thigh warmers, puffy tail, and jerry curl. But in my defense, he was a standard poodle, which, in case you didn't know, can weigh up to 70 pounds. You may also find it interesting to note that they are known for their powerful hunting instincts and have a long history of use by armies around the world. So don't judge me. "No thanks," I said. "I have a feeling he'll keep finding me."
Music by Kevin MacLeod.
You're listening to Big World Network.